everyone, 6:30, we're gonna get started. There may be a few more people pulling in here. And I'd like to welcome everybody, and I thank you for coming. There is a problem tonight. There's an open house at MVU, which we did not know about. In fact, as far as I can tell, and we did a little research, is that we actually scheduled our meeting before they announced the open house. So we're gonna have to meet with the school and try to get some, because this is not the first time a situation like this has happened, but we gotta get better coordinated. We have a new website, specifically to list calendars, events in the community, and that includes the school events, but we haven't been able to get everybody to participate yet. So we're gonna continue to work on that. But you people are here, and that's what's important. And so our first order of business will be a pledge of allegiance to the flag, and I'd like everyone to join in. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The way we're gonna go about this tonight, and don't get too excited because this is probably the first of many, is we're gonna do presentations. So the rec committee has a presentation specific to the rec issues that they're gonna be, new programs and things like that they're gonna do, and pictures of what they're proposing for the new facility. After, and Betsy Fournier will do the presentation for the rec commission. After that, the feasibility study has been completed. And I don't know if there's any copies left up there for everybody. If not, if you don't have one, take one on the way out. It's very interesting reading. Brian Savage, our town administrator, will do that presentation. And after those are done, then we'll open the floor to questions. And I know most of the people here, but we do have the camera here.
This Ken.
So that, excuse me. So when you do speak, would you have your name, give us your name, so people outside of this room, if they don't know you, will know who's speaking. I would very appreciate that. And you can direct the questions, probably should be directed to me, and then I'll pass them along to the rec or myself or one of the board members or Brian. All right, so Betsy, you can go ahead and get started.
All right, thank you so much. So as Earl said, I'm Betsy Fournier, and I'm the board chair of the Swanton Recreation Commission. I've been the board chair now for 18 years. So I am happy to be here this evening to discuss this opportunity with our community. So I'm going to take you through a few slides just to kind of give you an overview of where we're at, and then we'll hand it over to Brian, and he's gonna go over where we want to be. So first off, I just want to talk a little bit about the rec department and the ask to our taxpayers. As you can see, the blue line is our town appropriations, and the red line is our program revenues. We've been pretty level funded for many years. We haven't asked a lot to the community, but we do continue to grow. As you can see on the next slide, the number of our participants. So these numbers in this graph comes from a MyRec program that we use. So anybody who registers, whether it's a revenue-based program or a free program, has to register through our MyRec program. So this is where we get our participation numbers from, okay? So you'll see the blue line is residents, and red is non, and the yellow is total. So as you can see, we've had an increase in programming since 2020. And this is a large list, and I'm not going to read every single thing on this list, but this is our current program inventory that we are doing at our current facility. So we have youth programs, after school programs, out of school programs, adult programs, and community education opportunities. And this is just kind of, gives you an idea of, the programming that we do. So this is our current rec space. So the blue building is where our garage maintenance and where we host a lot of our community events. And then the other 3 slides are our sports fields and our rear parking lot with our soccer field and basketball courts, community gardens. And this is our current space. This is our office and conference and mixed-use space. And these are pictures of some activities that happen in our mixed-use conference office space. So we did cooking classes with adults and teens and youth. And this is our mixed use program, equipment storage and maintenance shop. And the next slide is some programs that we have had in this space: hunter safety, after school programs, summer programs, and so on. And this is just our purpose, to create a space where all residents of Swanton and visitors alike will be able to engage in a diverse recreational cultural programs, a space that will support all ages in developing community pride and spirit, a space that can act as a resource center to highlight healthy lifestyles and a general well-being of Swanton. And our vision, a space to highlight activated and revitalize the community I think I better take a break. Community-driven incentives in Swanton. Okay. A new space where we can come together and build upon unity for our community while planning for our future. So the next few slides are the proposed space for this community rec center. As you can see, oh no, right there. Our existing fields are to the right, and then the potential existing community center. And this is our concept plan. This is the inside of the facility. This is a 10,000 square foot facility with a flex basketball court, flex space for other activities that we can utilize that space for. Also community rooms, kitchens, restroom. And the next 4 slides are the outside kind of vision of the community space. Potential community programming and benefits. So what we could utilize this community space for, multi-use programming, exercise, adult leagues, fitness, health, wellness, lifelong learning classes, pre-K and kindergarten programs, extending after-school programs, 55 and up programs, networking, supporting, and shared workspace. And also we could do craft fairs, art shows, winter markets, guest speakers, music, entertainment. I mean, the list goes on and on. And these are just some pictures of our camps and activities that we have at our fields. And just a summary of our community. And then the next slide is a potential grants that we can look for to offset the cost of the facility. And that's only a few. I'm sure there's more out there, and we'll spend a lot of our time looking for funding to defer the cost to any taxpayers. This is a space for all of our community to enjoy, and we don't want it to be a burden to anybody. And that's all I have.
Okay, we'll move on to Brian now.
So, thank you for all coming out tonight, and what I'm going to do excuse me, is to give a background as to how we reached this point, and what, and then go through the feasibility study, and then what the next step will be, and then we open up to questions and answers. So the timeline, on September the 6th of 2022, representatives of the Swanton Rec Commission attended the select board meeting to propose the concept of a recreation community center. Estimated at that time, the cost would be $1.6 to $1.8 million. On September 20th of 2022, the select board set aside $600,000 of ARPA funds for the development of the center, with $107,000 to be used for engineering. On the 26th of September of 2022, at a meeting of the select board and the village trustees, it was decided the facility would be built in the back lot of the recreation fields, or as we would call it, the pit. On December 20th, 2022, the select board was informed that due to the design and various components of the facility, the projected cost was then in the neighborhood of $3.6 million. On February 7th, 2023, a motion was made at the select board meeting to suspend further work until a feasibility study had been completed. On May 16th, 2023, a feasibility study was commissioned from Bullard, King and Associates of Highland Ranch, Colorado. Mr. Bullard is with us this evening on Teams, and will be available to answer any questions when we get to that point. On July the 6th, 2023, after discussion, the select board appointed Bill Sheets, Nicole Draper, and myself to a committee to develop a master plan for town and village parks and recreation. And on July the 12th, after receiving feedback as to the site of the proposed facility, a committee was appointed by the select board to seek other proposals for the suitable site that is either within or very close to the village. The committee was formed to evaluate the sites submitted, and serving on this committee were Bill Sheets, Nicole Draper, Joel Clark, and myself. The Parks and Recreation Committee informed the select board that any decision relative to changing the structure of the town and the village in this area should wait until the new facility is approved and ready to be constructed, as it would serve as the centerpiece for the committee's report. 3 sites were submitted and reviewed by the committee, 3 new sites. 2 of these were on Wall Farm Road, also at 100 Lavoie Avenue, and the existing site. After careful consideration, it was determined by the committee that the best site is in fact the original site, the lower parking lot at the rec fields. On September 22nd, 2023, the feasibility study was received by the town administrator and electronically distributed to the select board and the chair of the Recreation Commission. So we'll get now into, that's where we were, that's where we've been brought up to, and now to the feasibility study. First of all, the service area, the primary service area is the town of Swanton. The secondary service area will be Highgate, Franklin, and Albert. The key factors, the population of the primary service area, the town of Swanton is 7,008 people with a median age of 42.7, 39% high school graduates, 29% with some college, and a college degree of 23%. Median household income is $73,410 with a per capita income of $40,894. We have 201 businesses in Swanton, total employment of 2,510. We have people in the white collar sector of 50.8% of the employed force, blue collar at 33.4%, service industries 15.8%, and the unemployed at 2.2%. The population within the primary service area is small, and as a result, it will be critical that the community center draws well from the secondary service area. The median age in the 2 service areas is younger than the state of Vermont, but higher than the national average. In the next 5 years, most of the growth will be in older age groups with anticipated declines in youth age groups. And this will push the medium older during that time frame. Both service areas have a high percentage of households with children than the state of Vermont, but lower than the national average. The service areas have slightly lower medium household income than the state of Vermont, but are close to the national average. The household budget expenditures are somewhat lower, but in line with the median household income. And the recreation spending index is close to the state level and the national level of 100. There is very little ethnic and racial diversity in both market areas, and Trappist segments indicate an active population. Within the primary and secondary service areas, there's a limited number of indoor sports, recreation, and fitness facilities to serve the population base. Now, these include the Swanton Recreation Facilities, the Swanton Public Library, the Missisquoi Valley High School or School District, Swanton Municipal Complex, Swanton Armory, the Swanton Chamber of Commerce, the Missisquoi National Wildlife Refuge, Highgate Sports Arena, and the Swanton VFW. There is a strong market for the Swanton Community Center that has a focus on more conventional recreation programming for Swanton in the secondary service area. The opportunities, in conclusion of the market, the opportunities is the secondary service area has more than a large enough population base to support a significant community center. And there is a significant number of households with children. This will enhance the use of the center. The population will continue to grow over the next 5 years, which will add additional users for this facility. There are only a few other indoor recreation and fitness providers in the market area. In partnership with other community organizations could enhance the programs and the services offered in the center. A public Swanton Community Center improves the quality of life in the community. Now, there are challenges. The demographic characteristics indicated older median age. This will have somewhat of a negative effect on the rate of participation in recreational activities at a community center. There are projected to be decreases in the youth population and increases in the senior age groups in the coming year, and the center will need to draw from secondary service area on a consistent basis to be financially viable. Now, the following some assumptions for basic parameters of this project. The community center will include a gymnasium, recreation space, 2 activity rooms, kitchen, lobby, restrooms, storage, office space, and activity space, or approximately 10,000 square feet. The community center will open in the fall of 2025. The operation plan is based on the second year of operation. The operational budget represents new expenses and revenues for the center and all program accounts. The existing full-time staff will be responsible for the operations of the center. There will be a high levels of rental and recreation programming in the center. The projections for programs are representative of programs that could occur in the center. And no bond repayment funding has been shown in the operations budget. The projected hours of operation will be Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. till 9 p.m., Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Sunday, noon to 8 p.m., for total hours per week being open of 85. Now, the hours, of course, are subject to change based on the season, the programming needs, use patterns, and rental considerations. Projected fee schedule. This is a projected rate for 2025 based on possible opening date for the center. Adults for daily gym admission would be a resident of $10, a non-resident of $12.50, or they could buy 10 admissions for a resident of $85 and non-resident of $106. Youth, ages 12 to 16, and seniors, 61 plus, the daily gym admission would be $5 for resident, non-resident would be $6, and $43 for 10 admissions for the resident and $51 for non-resident. So the admission rate is approximately 15% discount. The projected fee schedule is fitness is $15, $19, $15 for resident, $19 for non-resident, daily fee per class. Year 2 operations, the following figures summarize the anticipated operational expense and projected revenues for the operation of the Swanton Community Center in year 2. Year 2 will more accurately represent the true cost of operations and revenue than the first year. Now, likely in the first year, it would open probably like the middle of the year, and there's some additional expenses with that. The revenue wouldn't be there, so they based everything on the second year. And so in the second year, you'd have projected expenses of $336,650, revenues of $306,832 for a difference of $29,818, or a recovery of percentage of 91%. Now, as we get into the 5-year operation plan, that would be the financial performance of the Swanton Community Center for the first 5 years of operation. Both expenses and revenues have been adjusted on a percentage basis for each line item for each year. And there you've got the chart. I know the print is kind of small if you're trying to read it from the screen. But simply in year one, as we said, that's not usually a good indicator. Expenses at $314,911, but revenues of $219,741, giving a difference of a negative $95,170, or recovery of 70%. Then your year two, as I had previously mentioned. Year three, things are definitely improving there. It's projected expenses $353,975, revenues of $347,627, so you're losing just about $6,347. Year four, we've gone past the break-even point and actually recovering 101% with a difference of a positive $4,308. And in year five, we have a 100% recovery, slightly less surplus at the end of the year of $1,168. Now, this was based on information, general information, and basic understanding of the project, the preliminary program plan for the center. As a result, there's no guarantee that the expenses and revenue projections will be met. There are many variables, as you can well imagine, that would affect such estimates that can either not be accurately measured or not consistent in their influence in the budgetary process. So, we went through all the numbers, and nobody's sleeping yet, so that's good. We got now down to the brass tacks here, and how this is gonna look if we go to pay for it. Now, all the following scenarios are based on the following that will not necessarily be the time the final financing package is committed. We use the present town 2023 grand list of $7,184,800. Hopefully, more than likely, that grand list will increase when we actually go for the financing. The possible interest rates quoted today by the People's Trust Company for just purposes of trying to get some numbers is for a term of 30 years is 4.25%, for 20 years is 4%, and 3.5% for a term of 15 years. And we used to always say that in any of these meetings that your taxes on a $100,000 or $200,000 house will increase by X. Well, we now are going to be using $330,000 because that's what houses are more realistic than what's going on. So, the financing scenario. The first one here that we did, and keep in mind this is worst case scenario. We adjusted the $3.6 million, which you see the first one because we don't know what the future will bring and everything, but for purposes of discussion, bond amount, $4 million. At 30 years, the tax on that $330,000 property would increase $112.86. 25 years would increase $135.30. And 15 years would increase $159.39. That's if we absolutely got no gifts, no grant, nothing, which is very unlikely. The next scenario is $3 million, a bond amount. 30-year tax increase would be tax rate, 30-year term, the tax increase would be $84.48. 20 years, $101.41, In 15 years would be $119.79. It's still probably too high. We're hoping to certainly get that down. Then we go down to $2.5 million. There you, with that would indicate $1.5 million in gifts and grants. 30-year payment would be $70.62. 20-year would be $84.48. 15-year is $99.66. But really where we'd like to be, and whether we can do this or not, would be a bond amount of $1.5 million. There, your 30-year term would be a tax increase of $42.24. 20-year would be $50.82, and 15-year would be $59.73. Now, this meeting tonight is only the first of many meetings. There'll be at least several meetings. And as we get closer to an actual vote, we'll have a much better handle on what the estimated cost is going to be, as well as what interest rates are doing. We should be able to be a little bit more accurate for numbers, and we'll also know what's out there for grants. And certainly, if anyone wishes to make a donation of any amount toward this project, they certainly can do so. We would ask they can contact my office at the Swanton Town offices. And we will direct them on how that can be done. Now, we got some pictures. We're not going to go into the next placement on the site, but we'll just about wrap it up here. And we're at the point, and again, thank you all for coming, and we're now going to open this up for public comment and questions.
I just wanted to say that these slides can be available on the website tomorrow as well. So people that aren't in the audience or that want to look at it a little further will have the opportunity.
Okay, who would like to start first? Yes, sir.
Hi, Henry Lambert. To what extent did you go out and talk with the residents to get an idea of what is actually needed? I get the sense, looking at the proposal, and this is my first look at it, that a gymnasium and 2 activity rooms are inadequate for the town. That's my first impulse. So I'm wondering what went into this and how cast in stone is the design?
That would be an answer, a question for Betsy, the rec commission, because they did all the initial work.
So a lot of our information came from our patrons that we currently serve, and they also are partners that we work with that are also experiencing issues with space also. And also a lot of this information come from our community visit that we had in 2015, and then we did another one. So it's just an as needed space for our community. As you know, we don't have a lot of space to have activities or parties or events or programming, I must say. Did that answer your question, Hank?
Well, I'll wait more information, but I just feel that it's not big enough.
That the facility's not big enough?
Yeah.
Well, I can understand that, and there could be room for expansion in the future, but I think we need to start with this, just to see, where this facility brings us. We don't wanna build this humongous facility that we can't sustain. Right now, if you see the projection for 5 years, it'll be sustainable within 5 years. After 5 years, if we feel like we need a larger facility or need to add on to that, that'll be a great opportunity to do that. But I feel like we as select board and the rec department and for the community, we need to wait 5 years to see where we're at before we start thinking bigger.
Okay, thank you for your answer and also for the work you did to make this come to where it is today and to the select board. It's greatly needed, and I appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
There's one thing I would like to add, because the select board has been, since this proposal's been brought to us, we've looked at it from every angle we can, because we know how important this is to Swan, we know how big this is for Swan. One of the things you need to realize in that present location, even though it's been selected as the best location, there isn't a lot of room for expansion there. Because what land we got is pretty much what land we're always gonna have. So, you need the parking lot, you need the buildings, you need the fields. There's a limited amount of build out in that particular area. And that's always gonna be, that's never gonna change because nobody invents land. So if there was some expansion in the future, it might not be necessarily at that site. Unless some other property was acquired on that site. And most of that would be housing because Shelburne limestone in the present time is gonna be there longer than we're gonna be here. Yes.
Does the town actually own that property outright?
No, the village does.
The village does?
Yep.
And how much acreage is it?
Well, how many total acres?
14, yeah. 14.
Oh, there should be some hands up here.
My
Yes.
other question is, have you talked with the town of P.E.G? They built that hockey rink years and years ago, and it's been a struggle for years and years to utilize it. And it wasn't until a group of volunteers a few years ago that really stepped forward and made it a more usable building. Have you had those discussions with them to find out the pros and cons of trying to operate a recreational center?
Okay, I can answer that because we looked into what's going on at Highgate. And you're David Chevalier, right?
Right.
You didn't say your name. You're right, Highgate had struggled for quite a while, and apparently some changes in how they manage it and who manages it, it is somewhat profitable now. So it can be done. That, because I did actually specifically ask Brian to look into that, to see, because that's the closest one. And of course, they're just a ice rink, which, they kind of got people, because there's not many ice rinks around here, so, if it's run right, basically they should be able to cash flow. This particular project here does have some, we're gonna have to rely on being well-managed and proactive in getting people to use the facility, not just in Swanton, but have you seen in that report, outside in the secondary, primary area, in order to get the numbers to meet what he's projected. So it's a little bit different in Highgate, but Highgate, we did look into it.
And we also work very closely with our local rec departments, regional. So it's an opportunity for them to utilize our space as we utilize their space. We don't want to build something that's going to have a negative effect on what they currently have. So we're doing this to support our regional recreation departments as well.
Yes.
I'm Susan Hunter, and I volunteer for the United Way, and I was really anxious for something like this because it is so needed. I emailed like 35 people for our program, and some people don't want to be on the email list. But I can't imagine the people that we have coming to the Bone Builders program, which is on Mondays and Fridays, paying to go. They're on a very limited income, a lot of them, and I can't foresee that happening. And we don't have adequate chairs because we had all our chairs used recently, and so they grabbed some chairs that really weren't adequate. And so, and the space isn't there for us we're really close together where we shouldn't be, to move around. And also, I guess I thought that maybe this building would be like a senior center, since Albert has a really nice senior center, St. Albans has a senior center. So I thought maybe there would be something like that, but
It has oh, sorry, Earl.
No, go
Okay,
ahead.
Okay,
I do have a comment after, but you can go first.
so this space has, tons of opportunities, not to say that it couldn't be utilized for, we want it to be utilized for, our aging Vermonters, definitely. It could be utilized in numerous ways, so we have tons of opportunity. But it's not gonna be a functional senior center, but it will be for a multi-use, for multi-ages.
I have a question for you. Are you paying for the space you're using now?
no, United Way, when they check around, they check around for something free. They do pay some, they pay for the weights, and they have some expenses because we're trained every year to do this program. So they have expenses, but we're not paid. We have to keep track of our hours, but we're not paid.
So the space you're looking for, you would like to have that space donated?
Yes,
Okay,
because I can't imagine getting the people that we get now
yeah.
if they had to pay for it.
Okay. Does somebody else have their hand up?
I'll ask a question. Gordon Winters. Brian, just to, thanks for the feasibility study. I think it was certainly, I know we took a while to get there, but it was, reading it quickly, it was well worth it, I'm sure. Some good information for the select board and the rec department. I just wanted to clarify on the, it seemed a little misleading on the break-even point of the revenues and expenses does not include any of the debt service, correct?
That's correct.
So if the revenues do happen to fall a little short, the rest of those payments come back on the makeup of the difference would come back on the taxpayers, right? I mean, it wouldn't be, that's how the break even is proposed.
Right.
You bring up a good point, Gordon. One thing I noticed in there, and we do have, the guy who wrote the report right there. You didn't include any expenses for the present full-time employees, is that correct?
Yeah, it's in here.
That's true. Their costs are already being borne by the town right now. So whether you build the facility or don't build it, doesn't change that. So we didn't include that in there because that's an existing expense. So these are, as we noted in the assumptions, new expenses and new revenues associated with the facility.
So,
Go ahead.
oh, that was just my second question about and then I said about the employees. We said no new employees, there's gonna be new
No
employees.
full-time employees, no
You're
new.
gonna
No
need more
full-time.
employees for the new facility.
And it's already
Right.
built
Yeah,
into our
okay,
budget.
so
Yep.
that, yes, so it's not the current employees doing the new building.
But the present expense we have for our
I
full-time
understand.
employees right now is not included in this and would have to be added to the budget, the expense budget. That would probably change that break-even number, so.
That's right.
It would.
Dave Winchester, to clarify that, so your feasibility, that's just the additional operating expense for.
Yes,
the facility.
yes,
Right.
yes,
That's just,
And new revenues.
and new revenue.
okay. So that's just the extra staff, all the maintenance, heating and electrical, things of that nature, on an annual
Right.
basis. Yeah. And that's completely separate, and then the bond thing is the overall cost of just the facility, how long it'll take us to pay it off before we have to fix it up again.
Well, to fix it up again, but if properly managed, there will be a
will we be factoring in a budget
for maintenance and upkeep
So
and
we
to,
could,
like we currently do at the rec department.
yeah, what I need is, putting in a fund that could establish, an account that could accrue, versus just tackling things as they come up.
Right.
So there'd be a division of this for ongoing.
We currently have a money market account for rainy day fund if something drastic comes up. We have money put aside for that.
That's a good plan.
Yeah,
I'll allow the community to do that. So it's nice
We
to
try.
have that factored in. So like I said, in 30 years, mechanical stuff starts to go.
exactly.
We've already got something in place in a plan that we've been trickling away at the whole time.
Exactly, and
So
I
this
think
doesn't
with,
come back to haunt.
well, and working with the select board and the rec board, we're gonna have an operational plan moving forward. Any properly managed facility will have a 30-year plan.
We're gonna have to establish a reserve fund like you would in any business, especially when you got a building that's gonna be used so heavily. So the money that we currently have, that's utilized now, will not be adequate going forward for a building this size. So part of our normal budget will be to build in a reserve and build it up to some level that we feel comfortable with. Yeah, normal operating expense.
Thanks.
Heidi Lacrosse. So I have a question regarding the current facility, the current location that we've chosen. So I understand that there's X amount of acres available. However, how much of that, A, is wetland that would end up actually being available for use, right? I guess my primary concern, while I'm very much in favor of this, especially having a young family in Swanton, is the long-term plan. When we go over to that location now, there's not enough parking, there's, the road is not suited for what is there now, let alone putting more burden on that road, while also balancing other projects. I wanna understand that, well, again, very much in favor. I do feel we're, as a town, premature in the decision that we're making for long-term feasibility.
I certainly had them same concerns and still do. But Betsy, do you have an actual acreage figure on what is not usable on the land that was last donated by Shelburne
I
Light?
could, if we did pull up one of our, do you still have it on there?
Because it's not the entire 14 acres. No,
No,
you're right,
it's-
you're correct.
You could, in one of our slides, you could see the lines, in that, you don't have it up there? Oh, here. And you're not the only person that has that concern about the parking, because even right now, with the current facility we have, parking is an issue. But it's also just a gravel parking lot with no lines, not paved, nothing. So people just kind of park randomly anywhere, right? So this facility, yes, will take up a portion of that parking. So parking is an issue everywhere in our community. This is not just the rec department, it's everywhere, okay? But the one good thing about our community is it's a great problem to have that we need more parking, because that means we have more people. But we also live in an extremely movable community. We have bike lanes, sidewalks, rec paths that all will lead us to this location. We have off-site parking in other areas of our community that we could utilize also. So the parking is not probably gonna be solved, immediately. And we can, okay, so these lines are like the highest level of like where the facility has to be, kind of just for like the highest elevation of our floodplain areas, right? So here's your buffers are right here, or right here. This is your kind of a class 2 wetland. So here's the facility and the class 2 wetlands are way out here. So we have a little bit of room, but not like a ton.
But
And then we also have you know, current fields there that, we may have to move around a few things down there. But, I don't really wanna do that right, I don't feel like we should do that right off, let's see how it goes. And because we live in such a movable community, maybe it'll work out, but definitely we'll fix that the driveway that washes out every year. And that will have to be also widened a little bit because of the in and out traffic. So there is a little room. And once the permitting gets going and all that, we'll have a better idea of how much room we have. We're also, you know, if we do expand with our athletic programs, we're gonna have to look for outside land, like other recreation departments have fields all over their community. So, again, that's a great problem to have, that we have that many participants that we have to go outside of where we are to, give adequate programming. But great question, and it was an issue that I've heard numerous times, so thank you for bringing that up, Heidi.
What is gonna have to be done as we move forward is it's gonna have to be delineated, what is usable, what isn't usable. There's stormwater issues too that are gonna have to be dealt with. We don't have answers to that tonight, but as I said, when this was brought up before, what you see is, you know, that's what we got. You know, we're very difficult to expand the area. So that's what we're gonna be living with, unless we expand outside that area. Yes, David?
Yeah, Dave Winchester, I can help a little bit maybe of the concerns. I'm sorry, your name again, Lex? Heidi that you have. I understand what you're saying, but they're really based on the village of Swanton. This is the biggest piece of
Agreed.
real estate centrally located, and there isn't anything else like that could have this kind of connectivity. And there are, as far as where do we place that, the building is going to be at the top of the pyramid. Sites, as far as field work and developing things of that nature, there are places around, especially along the path, especially up at the school, the forestry property, there is connected space. And it's a little easier probably to encroach upon some of that wetland if you're not turning that into hardscape building. So as long as it stays drainable and natural, you can probably do a lot of that developing. And that's easier to do as we go along the path, but having the facility where it is kind of centrally located, we can grow kind of around it. I mean, that is the expensive part of the venue, and everything will become hopefully easier and achievable as we go along. And even though it doesn't quite look like it when you look at that site, where could you add a lot of parking? There's a lot of parking possibility along back of the senior housing there, up on the other plateau. And before you know it, when you start developing, we're still doing the extra driveway, or closing down,
Well, my understanding is
or
that
going back to Jewett.
you can't do it, it can't be done.
Can't be done.
That's what, I wasn't involved in that, but
Okay.
Betsy can probably update you on that.
So it all depends on where the boundary is for Champlain housing, right?
Oh, nothing to do with Champlain.
No, so this had to do with the engineering, and Joel's not here tonight, so I will, so it has to do with, let me get my notes out here. And we can update you more on this also, but, it's about the elevation, okay, wait, so the elevation change from Lake Street to the lower parking lot area,
Do we know what that is off the top of your
I
hands?
think it's, would it be 10 feet?
I think it's
Is it 10 feet?
10 feet.
10 feet.
Yeah,
Okay.
it says 10 feet plus. And it also would increase the stormwater permitting, which the size of the pond would increase significantly. So keeping it in that location is really our only option without additional costs. And because of the stormwater. And I could have Joel kind of give us more information on that also.
So for stormwater, are they asking for us to do a retention bond? Is that what you're saying?
I believe they are,
And just for the footprint of the facility?
yes.
And there's no drainage for stormwater on place for that?
I can't speak to it at all, David, because I was not there. The board has not been involved with the engineer at all. You know, the P.E.G or whatever you call them, that's been doing the work for the rec. So we only have what was been reported to us. Yes, David?
Dave Shervay, two questions, one for the consultant. As with any business plan, when you look at your cost versus your income, your costs are pretty much fixed and they're always gonna be there. Your income is always a variable, correct? You can't predict it.
Well, yeah, although because we're using part-time staff, that's tied to how the facility is being utilized. So there is some ability to adjust staffing based on utilization of the building as well. So it's not 100% fixed cost. If they were full-time staff, that's another story. But because we have those as part-time hourly employees, we can adjust staffing based on demand for day of the week, time of the year. So it does provide a little bit more versatility in how we manage the budget. Things like utilities and other things are, those are pretty much a hard cost in there. But there is some ability to adjust that, and you can adjust your hours of operation and other things accordingly. And in strong management, you do that, and you adjust it by time of the year, time of the day, and over the long haul as well.
Right, my point is though that the income part is a variable that we're hoping we meet.
Yeah, I mean, it's based on how many people are going to utilize the building, the types of programs and services that take place there, what the price points are for that, as well as for rentals. But there is, again, you can adjust some of that as you go. By its very nature, recreation programming is kind of cyclical, and it also varies pretty dramatically from over a 10-year period. So it just kind of ebbs and flows anyway. And then also how you're adjusting your the fees that you're charging so you keep up with any increases in costs of doing business, whether from the staffing side, utilities, or others. So, that's all part of the management process for this type of facility to make sure that you can meet the targets that are stipulated in there.
Okay, my other half of the question is that virgin land there, or has that all been excavated down because it obviously jumps down? Has Swanton limestone over the years taken that down, 8-10 feet?
Probably. By the looks of it, that's what it looks like to me.
All right, so if this goes forward, do we not have to do an archaeological dig?
I imagine they'll have to do some kind of, that stuff hasn't been done, Dave.
We're
Yeah.
not even that close, we're not even at the
I
permitting
realize
piece
that,
of
yeah.
it yet.
If you're down 10 feet, I mean,
Yeah.
how deep did they bury it?
You ready for this?
But that'll be part of the permanent process. We're not, it hasn't been started yet. Until we can line up funding and voter approval for the project. How much money are we gonna spend on permitting and stuff and then not be able, then get turned down? We're gonna have to do something, and if we can't get this particular project approved, we're gonna have to come back with something else. Because there's no question here, never has been a question, that we need a facility. It's just, there are, issues surrounding that site. The other sites we looked at had issues too. So, as it's been said, this is one area where the land is right here in the village, and we're gonna have to try to make the best of it, and hopefully we can add on some more land in that area in the future. And, I really have some serious concerns about Jewett Street as a permanent access. Blake Street fits more for that type of facility than Jewett Street ever will, just because of the way it's been built out over, the houses are right tight, pretty close to the road. A lot of heavy truck traffic during the day, especially in the summertime when Pike is running. you know, it's not an ideal access by any, not even close. So we gotta work on that, that's one thing we definitely need to work on more. And, but we need a facility. What's that?
I said I'd like to make a point.
Okay, go ahead, Steve.
First of all, the study that Mr. Ballard prepared for us, I think was an excellent one. I've looked at projections for 50 years. This is a really good exercise. It's not gonna make a decision, it's gonna help us come to a decision, but it's gonna be very useful. The part that I wanna talk about just for a minute is consolidating the current numbers into these projections. Because there's some duplications naturally in what the operation is taking on now, the expenses, the income. So the next step, and I've communicated this with Earl and Brian, is to consolidate these. Normal business transaction, so we'll have a more accurate number. We couldn't do it for this meeting because we just got the report in, I think it was last Friday, and it would be too soon. We'll get an accountant to consolidate these, eliminate anything that's duplications, and come up with a better set of numbers. Let's put it this way, a more reflective set of numbers consolidating both operations. And that should be done. It's not a big task, we'll have to have an accountant do it.
I just wanna ask our consultant one question. Are the fees, and that's what the rec would know this too, are the fees that you have proposed in here the same as we're charging now?
No. So we don't have
No,
a space.
I mean, some of those in terms of the facility fees and some of the ones based on rentals are more, and they've been trying to, again, the key thing is projected out to 2025. So whether it's our costs or whether it's the revenue side, and even the fees have been projected out at least 2 years from where we sit today. So they're not, and you're going to have a different facility than what you have now. So they're higher than what you have currently in place.
Right. I think everybody needs to understand that too, and this is the only way this is gonna be affordable, and it's pretty much the way it's done in other communities, so.
So the fee would be, like, if you come in to play basketball as a group?
If there was no other programming happening at that time and community members were to drop by to utilize the space, that's where the fee would come in to have a daily use fee. As far as programming goes, that would be factored into.
Build that in.
Correct, it would be factored into the programming costs. And echoing to what Ms. Hunter had said, you know, we do work with our community partners to make sure that we're facilitating all types of programming in our space, and in a sense with the United Way, you know, they make contributions to our organization as is right now that would help deflect some of that cost for anybody coming in to do, say, like the Bone Builders program. So all of those things would have to be factored into, you know, our pricing schedule, but it would increase because there would be more for the community to use.
Yes.
If I may, Jason Guy at Swanton Village, I'm also a member of the Recreation Board. Betsy, I was wondering if maybe between you and Nicole, if you could touch on like our summer camp, and then how many kids we actually turn away right now because we currently don't have the space or the adequate shelter in case of extreme weather.
Nicole, you can touch on that.
All right, so right now, we do operate I think a very healthy summer program for our young people. We have done it on 2 different models. The Notch camp, Notch comes in and runs and operates a day camp right now, and they were serving, they had 140 kids registered for their program, so at any given day, 140 children could show up to that program. They operated rain or shine. So in the event of rain or weather emergency, they would have to be under portable canopies or utilizing what indoor space we do have, from our garage to our office to our kitchen to our dugouts and everywhere in between. Swanton Recreation has since added on the addition to the Notch program an afternoon camp. And we are limited right now at the amount of children that we can offer programming to because of the limits of our indoor space. One of the programs that we had operated successfully during the pandemic was our hub camp, offering a space of remote learning for youth that needed that, as well as for parents that needed the extra care during that time so they could work and such. So again, our programs are limited to what our current space is. The fact, if there was the opportunity to have more space, then we could offer more programming to more kids. Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, and do you have a rough amount of how many kids we've had to turn away from that?
It's minimal at this point because it's still taking traction, but even turning one child away who needs programming, to me is you know, it's sad and it's detrimental, I think, to the whole entire community, because that's what we strive to do every day, is make sure that we're creating a space that's safe, welcoming, inviting, for all ages at any point in time.
But I wonder why you put it in at the meeting.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker has a question.
Whoops, yes, way back.
Matt Walker, I have several questions. Of course, most importantly, what's the size of the basketball court? As a local coach, and do you anticipate the school systems, both grade school and high school, being part of using that facility at all? Is that part of, where does that fit in?
So grade schools and high schools, is that what you said?
Gym time for that particular gym, is it considered at all that it's going to be
We will
available
have to
to the
schedule it
grades?
accordingly upon use, right? Like we currently have to now with the MBU and Swanton school. So,
The school would potentially be a community partner that would rent, use, or pay a fee to use the facility?
that's something we'd have to consider.
Which also I was
Yeah.
joking, but I certainly want to know the size of the.
And the size of the, same size as a Swanton Central School gymnasium.
Do you anticipate keeping both buildings going after the build?
Yes.
You'll keep the other facility as well as this facility running?
Yes,
Okay.
we will utilize it. We're not sure how we'll utilize it, but it will be utilized. It could be an opportunity for extra space for someone else in our community, but we definitely need it for maintenance.
Okay. And the drive and the activity on the revenue side that was touched on earlier, what are the major drivers that are gonna be available for new revenue in year 3, 4, and 5 that are not yet developed or happening in year 1 and 2?
So what we see as the biggest driver is bringing people from Chittenden County, or take our families that are leaving Franklin County to go to play sports or utilize other programs that we can't offer because we don't have ideal space here in our own community. So like our AAU programs, and our indoor soccer programs, and any sort of indoor space that will create, like, once we know we can build it, then we can start reaching out to these programs and kind of starting signing those contracts for people that want to utilize or need space.
So on a regular basis, we field numerous calls. For any of you that don't know, I am Nicole Draper, Select Board member, but I'm also the Executive Director of Swanton Recreation. We field numerous phone calls at any given point in time for people looking for space, from everything from wrestling programs to AAU to indoor soccer opportunities to conditioning opportunities, old and new alike. And I think by year 3, we would be able to offer the community more opportunities for adults, which is something that we're currently lacking right now. And as those continue to grow, then we would be able to offer obviously many opportunities, whether it be the basketball, indoor soccer league, floor hockey, roller skating. That's the really important part of having that mixed-use gymnasium space, because it can flex for so many different things, from in the summer to summer camps, to during the day when school's in session, to hosting programs for our seniors, and acting like a senior center, to after school giving the 4 kids that are especially sitting here today a place besides my office to come and to socialize and to interact with the community. Also, as community meetings one of the things that is really important to me, being here on this side of the table now, is civic engagement. So it's creating a larger space to host more engaging opportunities for us all to come together to talk about the things to help our community flourish and grow in the future. So that's year 3, 4, 5, 10, 20. It's us continuing to build the culture in Swanton where we all feel unified, where we all feel part of it, and having this space is the opportunity for us to do that.
Yes.
Don Collins, is this gonna be a 24/7 operation? This building gonna be used, and I go back to what Matt Walker asked. I am familiar with communities, and I think we see it here with hockey, not that we're having hockey, but people get up at 4 in the morning to do activities.
If somebody wants to operate a program at 4 o'clock in the morning, I will be there at 3:30, just like I am for every other program. It really depends on the programming need. Right now, in the feasibility study, we do have set hours of operation to operate for 85 hours per week. But again, my team that we work with, that we have now, we try to accommodate every need that the community has, or every ask the community gives us to the best of our ability. So again, if somebody wanted to be in that space at 4 a.m., I would happily be there at 3:30, opening the door for them to use it.
Well, I asked the question for 2 reasons. Number one, certainly buildings need to be utilized, but number 2, there's an expense.
Sure.
If you're running heat and if you're running heat, lights and everything at 11 o'clock at night on a regular basis, that's more expensive than the hours that you publicize.
Right, and that would be all factored into the rental fee for the space to make sure that we're accommodating that extra use, so that the people that are using that space are paying for whatever it is that they are asking to have that space for.
Thank you.
Yes, David.
Dave Strigoi, I just wanna say, obviously the elephant in the room here is a lot of people are on fixed costs. And they're gonna have a chance to vote on this, and I'm sure everybody is looking at the bottom line, but it's definitely out there for people that can't afford anything more. And particularly if they're older people, they're gonna look at it and say, it's not gonna benefit me. Even though keeping the kids busy might keep them off the street and doing less harmful things, but it's obviously a big thing for a lot of people.
Well, it has to be affordable, for sure, if it's gonna be successful. I believe that's possible. And for the select board, it's a big concern for us, and, sometimes we take a lot of abuse for that, but when you look at the numbers that Brian put up there for bond, even if you're only $50, well, there are a lot of other things that are gonna be happening here in Swanton, or that we have to do. That's gonna be another 50, then another 50, then another 50. So we have to look at the total picture, and we have to try to make things affordable. This particular project is a priority. And, we're gonna continue to move forward, and hopefully we're gonna find enough outside funding, to make it affordable. The operation of this facility is gonna be critical. And the present governance system that is in place right now might not be the thing for a facility like this. In fact, other communities are somewhat run different than we are when they get into this type of, because you could easily lose a lot of money. It's happening in Highgate. So, we wanna avoid that situation. It's gonna be a learning curve, but there has to be some kind of oversight, a lot more than what is going on now. And that's not to say anything bad about the rec commission or the rec director. I'm just saying we're going in a whole different area that we have no experience in. And, and if it's gonna be successful, we're gonna have to do it right. It's gonna have to be managed.
I personally am very well aware that there is a large portion of our population that is on that fixed income. But a place or community center like this can offer and benefit those people in ways that maybe they have not thought about yet. So on any given day, our office doors open and we have a wide variety of people coming in. And so not only do we help with their recreational needs, but we offer, community support services that currently are very limited in our state, or in our area. Well, we do have the Notch Clinic and we do have the Swanton Public Library acting as those community hubs. It's still not meeting the needs of every individual in our community. So helping to bring in some of those additional support services, is something that we constantly look at, that we're trying to continue to build partnerships with, to make sure that, it's not just about recreation, it's about building that community, offering that support and services, and helping everybody to live that healthy, well life that we want for everybody here in Swanton.
But the voters will have the final say.
Earl?
Yes,
Or
Gordon.
one more thing, I wouldn't automatically give up on Blake Street if, I would at least exhaust.
Well, I haven't,
that.
Gordon, I haven't.
No, I
given
know,
up.
but I just, that's
By
just
any
kind of.
Earl hasn't really had the opportunity to look at the information, so once he does, Joel and I need to sit down with the select board and kind of give them that information, which we don't.
I would just say, if we're apprehensive now about the way into this new community center, and we're apprehensive about the entrance going down now out as it is, I wouldn't just give up on the way to get in the building, if that's.
Well, I
Okay, so there may be, I don't know what the expense
See
would
the
be.
solutions right there, and I'm not gonna go into the details, that just comes naturally to me. I see a lot more possibilities, and I see a lot of questions, I also see the solutions there. It may not be visible or right in front to a lot of people who just don't do this on a daily basis. But multiple entrances make more sense than one. And there's other levels. The fact that we got a 10-foot difference between elevation between the main campus and the lower campus, so to speak, there's opportunity there too. And then, there's opportunity there to shrink the footage and have more space, the footprint. And be more cost effective on the structure at the same time. So, and that should be looked at. We're working with Cross. That's what we're working with. And yeah, I don't see the barriers quite there yet. And it'll be interesting to see what they're having to say about it. I see solutions there, but and the same thing is, until we see what they're concerned about. But I still see the ability to have another entrance there. It's still definitely feasible. It may encroach upon something else that we don't want to necessarily give up. But once again, you gotta look at the top of the pyramid, and everything else can start to move around. And considering its location, it just makes it a really strong, what do you wanna call it, advantage to doing something in that location. And it's a far cry from the slaughterhouse that we had growing up. And even though there's truck traffic, nowhere near as much truck traffic as we had when we were growing up, because they didn't have the other entrance back then.
No.
So we choked on diesel fuel
Yeah.
all day.
Well, it's something that's gonna have to be worked out going forward. I mean, the rec commission has presented designs that they had up here. I mean, that may not be, who knows if that's even gonna be the final design at this point in time, But
Location.
Location
ideally,
is-
figuratively,
yeah.
Concept-wise, it
Yeah.
seems to make a lot of sense.
All right, David. Sandy?
Sandy Skills Gilbert. Simple question. Who are the other property owners besides Champlain Housing Trust on Blake Street?
On Blake Street, it would be, I'm gonna let Brian say a name, because I have the same problem Betsy does.
Tyler Stanislaus owns the former
I knew
Lakeside
that,
Furniture.
yeah. Thank you.
Okay, no,
So it's just Champlain Housing Trust and Stanislaus?
No, there are other properties.
On Blake Street, on that side
On
of Blake Street?
No, on the side with
yeah,
the rec
right,
department,
right, on the
currently we
side.
have neighbors.
But I don't know where you go, where do you say it's on Jewett Street or Blake Street when you get on that side headed south? But, on the side where the Lake Champlain Housing, building is, right now the houses, that is Tyler.
So we had a good relationship with Champlain Housing Trust on other projects in Swanton.
Well, we've actually talked with Champlain Housing about this project. And, you know, with our concerns, or at least, you know, with the discussions that we had, there's interest with Champlain Housing working with us. But, you know, we haven't really come up with a plan yet. But we would, you know, it would be nice if we could acquire some more of that property in that area with a partner such as Champlain Housing, because then maybe they could get some private people, private side come in, especially for the area of daycare. And there's a lot of money out there right now, specifically for that purpose. And having a nice facility here in Swanton would be a real bonus for this community, and it would, you know, hopefully bring more families here. Because if we don't have younger people coming up, once we're all gonna be gone, if nobody's behind us. But, you know, so we've started some initial discussions, you know, with different entities. You know, Shelburne Limestone was one of them, Champlain Housing's been one of them. To make this whole thing work and to make the area look like something that people are gonna be excited about to drive into. Because it has a chance of going the other way.
It's already gone.
Thank you.
Do you have any more
No, I'm good.
final comments?
No, I thank you.
Any of the
for-
other members of the rec committee, have any comments they wanna put? Yes, go ahead.
So Jason Guyette again, Swanton Village. I've got 3 kids that have come up through the program. My youngest is 11. This is her last year in Swanton Rec. It's been a great opportunity for them. I'm invested in this, even though they're gonna be out of that program. And the reason being is that when I talk to people, the first thing they ask about is the school system and then what recreation opportunities are available. So that's our young families that are coming in. As you see Swanton aging quite a bit, I can understand the fixed income piece of it. Those wages aren't necessarily growing, you're on a fixed income. So some of those other opportunities are there. Vermont Digger just did a recent study about UVM, talking about the incoming class. They actually had a 2% increase of Vermont in-state residents, and that was at 18%. The last year previous was 16, and then that had been the bottom of the barrel of where they're at. And they're saying that that's more of a cause of the fact that there's declining enrollment in the high schools in Vermont, and we just don't have the kids. So a lot of what we see in Swanton is our high school kids are taking other opportunities and they're going to other communities for either the athletics or the scholastic opportunities are there. And I think that's a kind of showing the bigger problem of what we're running into in Vermont as a whole. So I think that recreation center, if it's built, I'm gonna plant these acorns now, even though I understand that I'm never gonna sit under the shade and that my kids are never gonna be able to do that. But the hope is they have a Vermont that they wanna come back to and they wanna raise their families in, and then their kids can enjoy this piece. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Any comments from the other select board members?
I'd really like to thank everybody for being here and being a part of the conversation. You know, this is an important part of our process. My door is open to every one of you in this room as you continue to have questions. Please don't ever hesitate to stop by and see what we're doing at any given point in time. We're always doing something fun and exciting. But it's because of you every day that I work so hard at trying to create opportunities within this community. So really, I'm just grateful for all of you being a part of our community, so thank you.
All right, well, I thank everybody for coming too. And I'm hoping that we'll have more people the next time, but I really appreciate each and every one of you for being here. And I mean it, because without people being involved, we never make the right decisions. There's been a lot of discussion here tonight that I think is gonna help us get going in the right direction. And we need that. Every board needs that. And we need the community to participate in this if it's going to be successful. So thank you, and I would have stayed a little bit longer, but I'm feeling a bit under the weather tonight. So I do appreciate you coming, and our next meeting I'll be feeling better and we can stay all night. Thank you.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.